And
Okay.
welcome everybody to another great episode of Laptops on the Field. My name is Alex, and today I'll be joined by my good friends Hendrix,
Eh,
Jeremy,
Hey.
Harrison,
What's up?
and Bunny.
I am late for a very important date.
Oh, no time to say hello, goodbye?
Well, I'm late and I'm late, I'm late.
To all of our viewers, happy spring training 2019.
Hell yeah, boy.
I'm
Hell yeah.
Baseball is back, and to celebrate, over the next few episodes, we're going to be going over all of the divisions in depth and how we think they're going to shake out.
Mm-hmm.
I am so
But-
happy to have baseball back.
You and me both, dude. I think we're all happy to have baseball back.
Like,
Yeah, and this offseason particularly was so long and drawn out because of all of the holdouts. And
They're all
at this
long
point,
and drawn out.
I'm tired of blaming people, and I'm ready to get back into it.
just as someone who took the next step as a fan of baseball, it was especially long for me. It used to be other sports could hold me over until baseball's back, and now they can't.
And what's funny is that you live near Tampa and you're not a Lightning fan. That's what I think is kind of weird.
Well, I consider
can
myself a
be
Lightning
tight,
fan, but I just can't get into hockey because there's no culture for it down here in Florida.
It's understand. I mean, outside of like Tampa city limits, probably that makes sense.
Yeah, you also remember a lot of people in Tampa are transplants from the Midwest, so...
It's not as bad as Arizona. Arizona sports have always kind of historically struggled keeping butts in the seats in all four of their teams, and it's kind of
Outside of the Dolphins back in the day, so is every other Florida team.
that's true. But
The Dolphins do
and
nowadays.
I also kind of blame that. I blame that
Exactly.
also on the fact that there are so many Florida teams that divvy up that population too, because there's always like a Miami, and then there's a Tampa team, or there's Orlando in basketball. So
Yeah, but you see the same effect. Anyway, but speaking of teams out west, a guy out west just recently signed with the Philadelphia Phillies, setting the Major League Sports record in North America with this contract. Bryce Harper, the phenom who played for the Nationals for the past 6 years, is going to Philadelphia.
Boy,
I think this is an interesting move. What are your thoughts on it?
inevitable, stupid money.
yeah,
That was the slogan that the Phillies were living by since the beginning of the offseason, that they were going to spend stupid money, and if they didn't get either one of Harper or Machado, then it was basically a failed offseason. And so when Machado went off the board to San Diego, they doubled down on getting Harper, and it paid off big time for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go more in depth in it when I do my preview for the NL East, but I thought that it might not be the greatest fit in the world, but they're getting one of the all-world bats, and they're kind of screwed with his defense for the next 13 years because no opt-outs and no movement clause, but he's got a bat, and he's one of the premier players in the game in terms of just star power, and they're selling tickets like crazy for season tickets. They've sold 100,000 more in one day since signing him. So financially, it seems to make sense, even though it's a huge financial investment. The year-to-year is not that huge for baseball. It's $25 million.
Like $25 million. Yeah.
But we'll see how well he can play in that park, because it's a pretty good hitter's park, and it's going to be a little bit more of an upgrade over playing in the Nationals park.
Nats Park wasn't that much of a hitter's park, but it was more balanced. But Philly is a big hitter's park.
Baseball reference, their park factor is kind of like the Nationals park for some reason.
Philly people are going to see a lot of number 3 jerseys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think the signing's good for Philly because they got all the other players during the offseason that filled up positions in need. They got Sierra for shortstop, they got McCutcheon for the outfield, and now they got Harper patrolling another sector of the outfield as well. So I think it's nice for them.
I'll say this again at some point, but there's one thing the Phillies can be happy about, is that Royce Hoskins will never have to play the outfield ever again.
That's true. Thank goodness for his own value, too, because
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure he had, Harper had this problem, too, but Baseball Reference didn't give him more than, 1.5 WAR because his defense was so bad out there.
Yeah, Fangraphs liked him more. Royce Hoskins was almost replacement level because of his defense. That was crazy.
I don't really agree with that. It's kind of why I favor Fangraphs WAR. It's all based on what you value more. So
I think there's value in both of those.
for sure.
But coming back to Harper, it does a couple great things for the Phillies. Number one, even though Bryce Harper defensively last year in Washington was horrible, career-wise his numbers haven't shown that. So it'll be an upgrade there. They're also putting Nick Williams onto the bench, which is fantastic because bat and defense-wise, he's horrible.
Oh yeah, Nick Williams.
With an outfield with Herrera, who's great at defense, and Kutch, like that's a fantastic outfield.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's fantastic, but I will say they've certainly upgraded it from last year.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it's fantastic.
And lineup-wise, how I believe MLB.com posted the potential lineup with day one, and outside of Cesar Hernandez, but it's a murderer's row of him, Hoskins, Segura, and then Realmuto, all in that order.
Realmuto catching and leading off or nothing? Sorry.
I love it.
That would be
my favorite catcher.
One last addendum on the Harper fielding point. He's never going to need to play center field ever again.
Yeah,
Thank
so
God.
that'll definitely help him as well.
But Baseball Reference actually rated him a better center fielder than a right fielder. That's the crazy part.
Well, for this
work?
season.
Yeah,
this
for
season.
Yeah.
Well, it's also sample size too. Harper spent more time in right field,
Yeah,
I would assume.
Yeah, he did,
Yeah.
but he didn't spend a very tiny amount of time in center field. He played 30, 40 games there.
Oh, he played a lot of games there. Yeah, he was bad.
So it's not like he played one bad game and now for the year metrics there, it's terrible. No, he got some time there to show what his performance would look like over a long stretch, and it looked bad. Defensive ratings in terms of runs lost are actually better in center field than they were in right field, which I always thought was insane too, but didn't have a great year in right field. And like MD said, I actually made this point originally, and now just recently I've kind of emotionally just been down on his defense. But originally I had said that his defense for a career had not been that bad, and he had been a positive outfielder as recently as 2017.
I think I saw an article somewhere about how Harper was I think he was taking inefficient routes to the ball. I think he was also letting a bunch of batted balls that he could have caught. He was sometimes letting them drop. So it had to do slightly with kind of his approach, where he could very much, if he wanted to, snag some of the batted balls that he didn't get, but just either didn't have a good enough jump, or maybe he was just taking bad routes, or he was just kind of letting them drop sometimes.
Or maybe maybe the Nationals have a bad bench coach.
Who knows? Mm-hmm. It's all a different thing.
It'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll find out.
All right.
On to the guy who signed right before him about a week or two ago. So going to a team out west, we now have a former Orioles heartthrob and top prospect, and probably a player the Orioles should have extended for a long time, signing with the San Diego Padres for 10 years and $300 million. It was the richest contract until Bryce Harper recently. And that guy is Manny Machado. Love him or hate him, guys. He signed. I think that deal's going to work out for the Padres in the long run.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, everybody's thinking, 10 years is so long, they're going to regret that. He's going to be 36 when that deal ends, and to put that in context, Harper's going to be 40 when his deal ends. I think Miguel Cabrera is going to be 41 when his deal's over.
Same with Albert Pujols.
Yeah, Pujols is oh boy. Yeah, that's probably the worst contract in baseball right now.
No,
especially
that Miguel Cabrera contract, just because he still has 4 or 5 years on that deal. The Pujols deal is at least coming close to being over at some point.
And they have a deferment worked out for it.
I guess. All right. Well,
that's just my opinion.
My personal opinion is that the Pujols deal is worse because it's actively hurting the Angels more than the Cabrera deal is actively hurting the Tigers. But
you obviously don't watch Orioles baseball. Because I have to watch Chris Davis, him, strike out 8 times a game.
But you said he's good for the tank.
He is good for the tank, but he's bad for my eyes.
But on
Yeah.
the topic of Machado, I like
And he
this
makes me
deal
wanna cry.
way much more than I like the Bryce Harper deal. I like Manny Machado
Yeah.
more than I like Bryce Harper because he's an infielder.
I like it too for the Padres because Manny agreed to play third base.
Oh yes,
He
hell
did?
yes.
That's great.
Something I thought that they weren't going to do, and they might shift to Tatis to third. But yeah, they're going to have Machado at third, and literally the only crappy piece on that infield is probably Eric Hosmer.
Oh, that's kind of tragic.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is, with Machado's defensive numbers in third base and shortstop, with how stark they are in terms of how his numbers at third base are fantastic and his numbers at shortstop are abysmal, it makes me think, like, I suppose San Diego probably showed those numbers to him because they're a pretty analytical squad, for one, definitely nowadays. It makes me wonder, did the Orioles and Dodgers just kind of not realize that?
Well, what I will say.
I mean, for the
Well-
Dodgers, they obviously had a hole at shortstop specifically, so like that's different.
Mhm.
But
But
like
what-
with the Orioles, do you think they just kind of didn't realize?
I can tell you that completely because Dan Duquette thought, well, the analytics are good. They weren't really pushed because of ownership and Buck Showalter. I would bet you nine times out of 10 that when someone came to Buck and went, "Hey, we should use the defensive metrics," or maybe you shouldn't back Chris Davis first in the lineup, or maybe that you shouldn't play Steve Pearce in left field. Like these defensive metrics just never occurred to Buck Showalter, and he always shot them down along with current executive, the only executive that survived coming in from 2018, Brady Anderson.
What I will also say is that when he was with the Dodgers, Baseball Reference at least liked his shortstop numbers then, and it actually got him to replacement level. He was so horrible with the Orioles, but so great with the Dodgers somehow.
Because the Dodgers used analytics.
Yeah, but on
And
top
was
of
like,
that,
and we're like, hey, this is how you can get better at short.
Mhm.
And the Orioles just were like, oh, well, you're not playing like Cal or JJ Hardy or whatever.
What I will also say on top of that is how much of putting him at shortstop was getting the most out of his value for terms of trade. Either he played so horrible at shortstop that they could resign him for cheap, or he played so great they could trade him. And they found out his bat was so great, even though his defense was bad, they could still get a good trade value out of him.
Well, he was going to get a good trade value anyway, but it really helped that his bat was at the best of his career, even in that awful Orioles lineup.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, imagine how many losses well, we might not have to, considering this upcoming year.
Oh God, don't remind me.
I'm sorry. If I only could, I'd make a deal with God and get you to swap your place with Boston, because Lord knows that city deserves it far more than any other city in America.
It'll be coming at some point.
I miss the days when they just teetered on the edge of collapse when they were in first place, not when they were like, oh yeah, we're just going to decide to be good for the next 5 years and not be unpredictable and a bit of a clowny sideshow with their manager and stuff.
At least they have World Series hangovers.
Yeah.
I guess.
Something the Orioles haven't had since 1983,
Oof.
and the Mariners and Rays haven't had ever.
All right. Okay.
It's not wrong.
It took them freaking 86 years between World Series championships. We can give the Mariners and Rays some time.
Oh,
Yeah, but back on Machado, I think it's a great deal. Even if he's good and he opts out and he wants more money or whatever, that way you can potentially extend Tatis with 1 year and find the payroll to do that, or Mejia. That's an interesting way to look at it financially.
Yeah, they either have the ability to re-sign a lot of their stars, or they can keep Machado. He's probably still going to be in his prime years to perform real well, so it's not like they're going to be like there's too much of a downside to it.
What do the rest of you guys think?
I think it's a good deal considering the fact that Machado is making less money than Harper, but he's contributed more value as a player than Harper has so far at a more premium position. So having that on the field on like a rebuilding team as like the Padres have, I think that will help in the future. Especially considering that their infield is pretty much cemented, considering that they have second base as Luis Urias I think is the
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be Urias.
Urias, and as you mentioned, Tatis at shortstop as well. So I think it's a good deal for them.
That infield's going to be mental.
Yeah.
Except for first base.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
They
you
had
never
Will
know.
Myers. Why did they ever get Hosmer with Will Myers on the roster?
Because they saw his
Hotter take.
unibrow.
Why did they even get Will Myers? Ooh.
Hey, don't be
Because it
talking
was
crap about future 40-40 member Will Myers, okay?
He came close 2 years to 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's still
Absolutely.
40-40. This is the year. This is the year he busts out, even though I'm not entirely sure where he's going to play. Left field, I guess?
I've heard them say center.
No,
Center.
He's gonna be left fielder.
I think Cordero has center field.
Cordero or Margot, one of the two.
Yeah.
Well, they're at least
Mm.
giving
I
him.
think they should go with Cordero, because that man
could-
hits big bombs.
Margot.
They
the
could play
hell
him
out
at
of Cordero.
DH. Oh wait, that's right. We're talking about the inferior league.
True.
I think we just lost half our listeners. Thank you,
Uh,
Emily.
Oh,
All
no,
28
a
of
shot's
them.
in the foot.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
No,
Well,
all
I'll
five
say-
of
All
them.
like 3 of them.
But no, our episode 4 got a record 28 views in its first 2 weeks.
Woo!
Gotta start
Woo!
somewhere, man. I
We have-
remember when friggin' Twitter was like, "You got 20 followers on Twitter. Tweet something about it." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Gotta start somewhere, I guess." Hee.
Nah, I would have been like hug self. I knew we could do it.
We did it. 20
Yeah.
trillion subscribers.
Yep.
So, guys, we did it.
We got more people following us on Twitter than PewDiePie. GG nerds.
Of course. All right.
Yeah. So anyway, outside of the grins and giggles and everything, we're gonna start our division preview. We're gonna start with Bunny to introduce us and walk us through a format, and we're gonna be starting with the National League East.
Yeah, this is a monster division. When I suggested some titles for this, I think Beast in the East was actually pretty
Beasts of the
appropriate.
East
For sure.
Yeah. But anywho, I've kind
and
of
Miami.
come up. Yeah, and
Ouch.
Miami.
And Baltimore.
Poor Miami.
Oof.
We'll be getting to the AL East, too.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing: as I made this format to try and get us to stop from rambling like we just did, but I think it'll also encourage some great discussion and give us a chance to make some hot takes that will definitely not look bad at the end of the year.
Or look bad in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So I made these. I also made a little system of evaluating rosters, specifically just infield talent. Not infield, but position player talent. And I call it the S-Rabbit system, which is the subjective rating by basic integer tabulation system. And
That's actually really good.
And so all it is that I use the numbers 0 through 3 to assign a value to a team's starter at a certain position. And a 0 player is a replacement level player or a near replacement level player. A 1 is a stopgap, a guy you can just throw in there for a year and maybe he'll be good, maybe he won't be. A 2 is a true starter, like a true starter, because 2 WAR is a starting player, so I figured that would be a good number to go with that. And then 3 is an all-star level player or above. And I guess that the difference between Mike Trout and Juan Segura might not be that small.
Gene Segura.
Or Gene Segura, however you want to pronounce it.
That's the only pronunciation.
So Gene Segura or Mike Trout might have a huge chasm in terms of talent, but that also might be Gene Segura's career year, and he has like a 7 WAR year, and Mike Trout only plays half the season and gets 8 WAR.
Okay. Only plays half
All right.
Not doubting it.
So that's to explain how I kind of evaluated it to myself. But
He'll just dude. The best part is that even if he's injured, he'll still be playing center field. He'll be like in a wheelchair, just like slinging it, just rolling over, getting fly balls and throwing it back in, and he'll still put up like 8 WAR or something like that.
No,
approaching 40 mile an hour speeds on the wheelchair.
No, I think
it looks like a Harley.
No, I think they'd have
breaking the law.
I think they'd have some mercy on him and just DH him.
Oh, All right.
Oof. That's good. That's good.
He still
Then Ohtani
steals
plays center
25
field.
bases. But anywho, let me get on to my
Embrace
actual,
chaos, Angels.
yeah.
Okay.
So I kind of made this format to help us out to get a lot of information in a short amount of time, and this is how the format will go, and I will be the test run. So
Nice.
I will give
All
us
right.
my total. At first, I will give us my totally racked predictions for the NL East.
All right.
And in order, I expect the division to go out. Number 1, the Nationals win the division.
Ooh.
Number 2,
All right.
the Braves finish second.
Oh,
Number 3, the Phillies finish third. Number 4,
Harper's not
the
elite.
Mets finish fourth. And number 5, the Marlins continue to rebuild in the basement at number 5.
Hey, at least they look better now.
Yeah, at least they have an
paper.
actual minor league system now.
True.
Mhm.
So now that I've
Monte
given
Harrison.
my predictions, what we will do is we will go in order and discuss each team as I set the order. And we will, at the end, we will say lower or higher. And obviously you can't say higher than first, so you'll say same or higher. Or lower.
Lower. Okay.
So,
Samer.
so what we'll do
Samer.
so we will say, we'll start talking about, and each of us will get a division, and then at the end we also have the NL West, who has no one slated for that yet. And we will all kind of just discuss what we think about the roster, and then we will give the higher or lower. So let's go on to the Nationals. That'll be our first one. So,
Who wants?
on this roster, I kind of, because I had this S Rabbit system, I gave them a 2 at catcher for Gomes, a 2 at first base for Zimmerman, a 0 at second base for Dilfo because he's a replacement level player.
There's Dozier.
you talk about Brian Dozier.
Probably on the bench to start the year, or we'll find out. For Turner, I had a 2. For Rendon, I had a 3. For Soto, I had a 2 just to be conservative. For Victor Robles, I gave a 2 to be aggressive. And for
Robles.
Eaton.
Robles.
Yeah, Robles, actually. I pronounced that. I actually made a note on how to pronounce it, and I still mispronounced it.
Big oof.
And then for the right field, I have Adam Eaton as a 1, as a stopgap.
Yeah, that'll be a 1.
And then I have them having a pretty good rotation and a fairly poor bullpen, but at least they have a closer now.
Mm-hmm.
They already had a closer, bro.
Yeah.
They've got Trevor Rosenthal and Deshaun Doolittle. That's not a bad 8-9, but then from there, it's messy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but but is Rosenthal on the 9 wasn't really all that great, and the 8 he's better, but...
What was that, Harrison?
They also got Kyle Barraclough, who's had a lot of success, but
and whose last name is fucking dope.
Yeah.
His stock kind of dropped at the end of the year. He didn't finish as strong as he started, but
massively.
He should still be interesting.
And we were actually the Rays were actually the team that ruined his stock at first, because once we got on, he'd been a perfect closer to that point, and then we ended a save bid for him, and we blew it.
Walk-off grand slam, right?
No, that was actually the one that had led to the 16-inning game.
Oh,
the one that we tried to have Jesus Sucre close.
Oh my lord!
It's like I bet they looked at him win this game or don't. I don't care anymore.
Wait, no, the funny thing, we had a 3-1 lead and we only had one pitcher left, and we said, "Nah, let's just use Jesus Sucre instead."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, so on to the. So now let's all see from you what you think about their roster construction a little bit more briefly.
I'll let one of y'all go first, even though I live closest to the Nationals.
I think Eaton is going to have a good OBP and maybe provide subpar defense, but I think he'll be okay. Other than that, I think the team's going to be pretty good, and I agree that they'll probably make it at the top of the division.
Let's keep higher or lower for the very end. We'll all go through it like we do.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll do it like card charts.
So I think Harrison set a pretty good structure to follow there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brian Dozier being there at second base is going to be a very interesting project. It's impossible to really project how he's going to go, though. So for now, I'm going to give him a cautionary 1. And there's also they have 2 starting caliber back. I don't know. I don't know if Kurt Suzuki is going to be totally starting caliber at this point in his career. He's 35, but
I gave him a 1.
I think yeah.
as a good stopgap.
Yeah, he'll be the backup catcher, which at this point in his career, he's just a glove. He should be.
But yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I said that he. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I said that he was pretty valuable as a stopgap and as a backup.
For sure, yeah. As a backup, he'll be good.
Yeah,
and yeah, I don't really have any I don't have any problems with the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Hendo,
good rotation.
Let's see. Looking at the roster, make it great. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
I think the Nationals roster is like it's pretty good. It's pretty set up well. I think that barring the catcher, their positions are pretty well filled. The weakest one being like Matt Adams at first. It's like it's not a terrible choice, but there's a lot of better options that could be filled in there. And
they still got the Z-Man.
Good. They have a really good rotation. Bullpen is top heavy, and it's just after that, it's like no,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think they're a good team.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they're gonna win the division, so to speak, but they're gonna make it very interesting. Rendon's in the last year of his contract, and he's done really well all over his career in Washington.
God, he's so good. He's so good.
Oh,
yeah, he's amazing.
He's the second best third baseman right now in the National League behind Nolan Arenado, I'd argue. But with Nolan out, he's the top third baseman on the market this coming year. I think Rendon's going to be a 3-player. Turner, if he adds more, I think Trey Turner needs to add a little more OBP to be a really good and really more consistent. But overall, though, with his speed on the base paths and how good he is on defense, yeah, and while OPS wise, I don't like him. OBP is good. So yeah, I think a 2 is a fair grade. I think I would put Dozier at a 1, honestly, because I don't see him or Kendrick or Defoe really holding them at second base spot. And I think what the Nationals are going to do potentially at AAA this year is have Carter Kieboom, or however you say that, his last name, their top prospect.
Who even knows anymore? Names suck now. I can't with any names anymore.
Dude, his name is Kaboom. That's an announcer's best friend, and he's a batter. If he was pitching and like, Kaboom has gone kaboom, one inning pitched and 3 earned runs, or he's gone kaboom, he's just saved the game.
That would something be cool. Like that. Yeah, it's also a social media manager's best possible dream.
And what sucks is that the Nats announcers probably aren't going to take advantage of that.
Oh God, yeah.
And he's just going to go, Carter Kaboom goes yard. See you later.
Oh, God.
I'm like, as I turn the channel back to the Orioles game, because while they may suck, at least Jim Palmer and Gary Thorne are awesome.
God, they're so good. Yeah, all right.
But anyway, I potentially think that Kieboom will come up and play second for the Nats this year, especially if they're in the thick of a playoff race. The rotation, they've added depth, which is great over the offseason. Of course, you have Max Scherzer, who's a 3, no question asked. And coming off of a career year that last year, he probably could stay the same. May have regressed a little, but still be amazing. You have Steven Strasburg and Patrick Corbin, with Corbin coming in from Arizona, looking to be a fantastic rotation. You have Anibal Sanchez, who did well in Nats Park against the Nats and did well overall in the NL East his entire career, coming from Atlanta. And you have Joe Ross as the number 5, who, while really the kind of wild card in the rotation, the rotation's so good that really having an iffy number 5 really isn't an issue.
Also, they have
and Hellickson will be long in the bullpen for long relief or as an insurance starter.
Right.
I think Juan Soto is going to replace Bryce Harper in terms of the big left-handed bat who DC hypes a lot with their marketing. I think Juan Soto is the next guy there Victor
They already call
Robles.
him Childish Bambino.
Dude, that is such a cool nickname. I love that.
He even kind of looks
That is-
like Babe Ruth in terms, like he's got the same nose as Babe Ruth.
Oh yeah,
he does actually. I'm looking at his
Yeah.
picture right now. That's
On
not
God.
that's not an inaccurate description.
all right.
Let's see. Robles in center field. I think is a dark horse for Gold Glove. Honestly, because
Right.
because apparently they've done speed training with him over the offseason, so he could potentially be better in center field. Like that could be interesting. I think. And Adam Eaton in right field. I think this year and next year is going to be the last year with the Nationals.
Yeah.
So if not, they can retool at the deadline or at the offseason and probably get someone else there. Because trade Eaton, who while he won't have a whole lot of value, they'll at least find something akin to a better outfielder there in that spot.
Maybe a bit of salary relief too.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, so let's go card charts, higher or lower. We'll start from the top with Hendo, and we'll go work our way down.
I agree. I think the Nationals will finish first in the division.
I'm gonna go lower.
All right,
I think they'll finish second.
MD.
I'm gonna go lowest of all and put them at third because while Atlanta's pitching has issues, I think Atlanta's bats have the higher upside. And I have and move our discussion over a team. I think I think with Bryce Harper, I think the Phillies win the division.
1 second. Did Harrison do higher or lower?
No, my bad.
Next.
Oh, I'm going right where they are. I think they're going to finish first.
All right.
There we go.
Now we can move the discussion.
Now we move on to the Atlanta Braves. Who with my terms of my roster evaluation, I said McCann and Flowers were both ones, but they'll be able to platoon pretty well in terms of that catcher spot. They have a guy who can hit pretty well, and they have a guy who can they have a guy
call a hell of a game.
Yeah, call a hell of a game, and they have a guy who can, hit. And then for their first baseman, they have one of the premier first basemen in all of baseball, Freddie Freeman.
3.
3. Albies is a 2, just because of that ending of the season. But he has the ability in terms of a Gold Glover, and maybe he can get his bat like it was in the beginning of the season to be a 3. Swanson I have as a 1 because I'm really low on his defense. Donaldson as a 2 because of his injury potential. But if he's healthy, he's a guy who can be a an all-star player who was really transformative. And other than I've seen Braves fans kind of discount their off season and it wasn't enough. But if Donaldson performs, that's a huge signing. And then in terms of their and they also have Camargo as a guy who can come off the bench. And
I love Camargo.
And in terms of their outfield, just to get it over quickly, Acuna 2, Inciarte 2, and Marquez 1 as a stopgap. And while I actually like the top 3 pitchers of their rotation. I don't think they're great, but I think they have 3 young pitchers who can perform pretty well. And then they have Gausman as a 4, who might be good and might not be good as a 4. And then their bullpen is kind of lacking. But as a team that has as the number 2 or number 3 farm system, depending upon who you ask in baseball, they just won a division. I think this is a team that's very realistically a wild card contender. Very realistically could snatch the division away from the Nationals, but I don't know. I still like them. I still like them to make the playoffs, just maybe not win the division. And the Nationals were the team that won it in terms of Pythagorean wins, so I think they'll bounce back this year. That's the only reason why I'm taking them over them. And they had a pretty decent offseason.
All right.
Now, let's get back into... let's do it in reverse. Let's have Blue go first and work our way up to Hendo.
All right.
I guess I'm probably the low person on the Braves as a whole. in this group, I would assume. I'm not super high on Albies at all. I don't know if Donaldson's going to be healthy, though they do have Camargo, which is a very nice option if Donaldson does indeed get hurt. I'm also not that high on Dansby Swanson. Markakis, if Markakis has a year anything like he did last year, I will be shocked. I think Acuna is going to be really, really good if he isn't already. Inciarte, I like, but I'm not super crazy about. I like him more for defense than anything else.
He reminds me of Kiermaier.
I will say, I do like Tyler Flowers quite a bit. He's actually hit pretty well the last couple years in Atlanta. So, then pitching, I don't really like Gosman, but I'm pretty good on everyone else. And then the bullpen, I think they should have addressed this offseason when they did. But
they can still technically get Kimbrel, but
that is true. Very, very true.
Did they say their off season was over? Like, I know other teams have like gone out and said like we're done.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything from
I don't
Atlanta.
believe so. But at the same time, they very much have shown they're only giving Kimbrel a 1-year deal, from what I've heard.
Oh, interesting.
That's why it could actually work out for Kimbrel, though, because if he's not being offered great deals, he can just kind of just take
a 1-year prove-it deal.
Mm-hmm.
Do a year in Atlanta, and then try and go out for the big bucks.
But
I feel like Keitel's going to get the prove-it deal.
Yeah, but
for 1 year.
I think that was a really good model for us to go with what Blue just did in terms of evaluating a team for responses.
Yeah.
All right, so MD, you go on.
All right, so I'm gonna start catcher and work my way around the infield. I like Tyler Flowers as a catcher. I'm not really hype on. His defense is okay, and his bat's all right. So I'm not excited about him. I get why he's the starter. And even if he falters a little bit, they have Brian McCann, who while old and really out on the downswing in his career, could provide some value. Freddie Freeman, of course, needs no explanation. Love the guy. Probably the second best first baseman in the National League outside of oh God, no, I'm drawing a blank. Thank you, Goldschmidt. Goldie. Because I was thinking, like, what team does he play for? I'm like, no, he doesn't play for Arizona. Yeah, I'm like, he doesn't play for Arizona anymore. But right behind Goldie. Let's see, Ozzie Abiles, he's good, but I don't know if the end of the season's indicative or not. Defensively, nothing special. Same with Dansby Swanson, I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I think that bat-wise, he's going to keep up where he's at. And shortstop, I think he'll improve a little bit more.
Anything else?
Yeah. Let's see. While Josh Donaldson, I don't think is going to be all that good because of his hip being made of glass. Even if he does get hurt, they have Camargo, and that's basically a good insurance policy. The outfield, I agree. Even though I'm going to bump Markakis up to like a 1.75, mainly because even if he reverts back to his career norms, he'll still be a great on base and somewhat good slugging bat. And for the top of the order as an OBP bat, that's not all that bad, and especially considering the power and context of that lineup. Let's see the pitching staff. I like Newcomb. I like Fulton-Nickwitz. Oh, I can't pronounce his name.
I think you got it right.
Fulton-Nevich.
Okay, thank you.
Fulton-Nevich.
I think really the linchpin of this rotation is going to be whether they can iron out and give Kevin Gausman a pitch, because his two main pitches in Baltimore were always really good, but he always had a third pitch but when working was great, or when it wasn't working was just god awful. So, but for a while it was the Ubaldo Jimenez splitter, and then this past year it was the Andrew Kashner four-seam fastball.
Mm-hmm.
So I think really what Atlanta needs to do is they need to figure out with him which pitch that's gonna be, and for number 4 they got to figure out whether they can get Julio Teheran to stop issuing so many walks. because he out of all the pitching staffs last year in the National League, Tehran had the most walks on the team, and Atlanta led I believe all of baseball in terms of walks issued among playoff teams. And they believe they were top 5, top 10 at least in terms of walks given up in all of baseball last year. But yeah, the bullpen, it's going to be bad, and they're probably going to trade prospects and get it better come deadline time. I don't know if Kimbrel signs there. It would be good. It would be good for them, but overall, yeah, I'm not sold on their bullpen at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Am I next?
Yeah.
All right. Like Harrison, I'm very down on the Braves. Acuna is going to be a 3-level player. That's my take. I think he's going to rise to the top of the league. But Albies, I'm not convinced he's any better than a 1. I'm not convinced by his offensive upside at all. Markakis as well, I don't think he's going to provide the offense that he did in the first half of the season. There's also the issue of Sean Newcomb, who I think is very mercurial and might not really be all that. I'm still really shaky on Newcomb. I'm fine with Foltynewicz. Not so much with really anybody else on that Braves rotation except for like the young guns, which I think will come up and do some damage. I think Mike Soroka and Tuki Toussaint will be featured rather prominently this year. I think it'll really be when they kind of have their coming out party as new faces of the Braves rotation. And the Braves bullpen is probably just the worst among the 4 teams that have a shot at the division, because you don't really have any standouts. You've got your closer Arodys Vizcaino, and then after that you have names like Jesse Biddle, Shane Carl, Sam Freeman, Max Fried, Luis Gohara, AJ Minter. Nobody who Darren O'Day, just kind of guys that they exist, but none of them inspire a lot of confidence. And certainly some guys like Minter and Freeman have inspired some pretty gross moments, like when the Cubs came back from being down like 14-2 to win or something like that. It was something crazy. So that bullpen is going to be extremely suspect. And I think that's just going to be it. I don't see him making the playoffs.
All right. So, I'm not only do I not see the Braves making the playoffs, I don't see them finishing above 500. It's like, I think the offense is good. I think that it's the weakest part of the offense, like Brian McCann, and I think it's an obvious given because the rest of the offense is like average to really above average in terms of their ceiling. Like the bench is fine for what it is, but the pitching is like probably the worst out of the 4 that actually have a shot at competing for the division, because pitchers like Foltynewicz and Gohara and Gosman have been suffering with injuries, so that's like 2 members of the rotation, and they're all depth for the rotation. So, and when you got and the other members of the rotation aren't really necessarily what I would call good.
Oh yeah,
and I think like the bullpen is bad. It's like bad. It's like, sure, you have like 3 guys that could do something, then you got like a whole bunch of question marks and quad A guys that are just gonna fall in the mix. It's like they really should have done something to address it with their farm, or they should have like signed a free agent like Robertson, like the Phillies did. So yeah, I don't necessarily see him doing well.
All right, so let's do
Really?
card charts from the top.
Well, hold on. And one point before we move on from the
boy.
Braves is that really between them and the Nats, it's going to depend on whose bullpen doesn't fall apart. I think that's going to be the storyline of this division. Is we all know the bats are solid. It's whose bullpen isn't going to totally fall apart and who gets better come deadline time.
And what I think is that not only do the Braves have the capital to trade at the deadline, but I think they might have young pitchers who might be ready who they can just throw into the bullpen for the year. Do they?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's true. I think they would fare better with like more proven bullpen arms.
True.
They
It would
just
be
came off
better.
of winning a division title.
Yeah. They definitely have a solid foundation, but it's going to be interesting to see if they can sustain it. I think they're in for a bit of a swoon, but they'll be back in the discussion soon enough, and I think as soon as they get a little bit more reinforcement from their farm system, they'll be good to go.
All right. So let's card shark it. Card shark it now. Higher or lower than a 2?
Starting with whom?
Starting with the Braves. Are the Braves higher or lower than a 2? A second.
I think they're going to be lower than 2.
What do you think they'll finish?
4th.
All right.
Ooh,
Jeremy?
interesting.
Spicy.
Lower, also 4th.
Really spicy. MD?
Same. Second.
All right. And
I'll go lower 3rd.
all right. Pretty grounded. All right. So now we go on to the Phillies, and I'll try and be a little bit faster because my little system was really just for me. But they just signed Rio Muto. That was the big trade of the offseason. I know we had some big signings just right now, but getting Rio Muto was like the prize of the offseason. That's an all-star level catcher. That's a 3.
And they also had the biggest signing in Major League Sports history.
Oh yeah, in terms of money.
He's getting to that.
Yeah, they also brought in Bryce Harper. So I'm gonna probably change one of their outfield spots from Quinn to Harper right now.
Quinn.
Oof.
Yeah.
Either way, there's like no good option there outside of Harper in right field.
Yeah. So
because either that or it's him or Nick Williams.
All right. So anywho, they're gonna move Royce Hoskins from being a butcher in the field to being maybe a competent first baseman who has a great bat. Hernandez is a 2. Segura is an all-star level shortstop. He's a 3. Franco is a 1 because he plays real bad defense. Like, really, really bad defense. McCutchen I have as a 1 because, like, even though he might be a good corner outfielder who has a decent OPB, like, he's kind of declined the past couple years, so I kind of expect him to have, like, a 750 OPS, even in a better hitcher's park. And I really don't think he'll be that great in left field or right field. Like, and even if he is, it's not going to add that much value to the team. Herrera, I had as a 0 because of his defense. Or was it because he played great defense and he only had a bad bat? I'm drawing a blank at the moment. I'm sorry, guys. That's real unprofessional of me. Harper, I'll have as a 2.5. The only one I'll have at that. Oh, I won't make a habit to make it that because he has one of the great bats in the game right now. Like Hendo was saying last night in a discussion in chat that he was like 68th all time in OPS.
Yeah,
which is great, but his defense, I don't think will be as bad as it was last year at all. But I still think in terms of Baseball Reference, I think it'll be a -1. And in terms of their pitching rotation, Nola is probably the great young pitcher in the NL right now, and he just signed that huge extension, and it was a cheap, team-friendly extension. Pivetta and Velasquez, I think, are 2 other decent starters, and I think there's some questions at 4 and 5. And their bullpen, I'm not high on. I think Daniel Hunter, not Daniel Hunter, but Tommy Hunter is decent. Dominguez might be an all right closer, but I don't like what they have after that at all either. And I don't really like Tommy Hunter that much because I don't think he played all that much.
Including Pat Neshek?
Neshek.
Yeah, I don't like Neshek that much. I'm going to have a spicy take there, I know, but...
There's some other names
debatable.
that should be brought up in the... So I'll get to it.
All right, well, why don't you use your time to just bring up the bullpen, since I think we're all going to pretty much touch on a lot of the same points in terms of all of the roster. And
We'll see. Who's first?
Blue.
We'll do this backwards.
All right, I'll go first. Phillies in a nutshell. I like the bullpen more, but I'm not. I do like Daniel Robertson closing, and I like certain other aspects. I would be more concerned about maybe third base, even though Maikel Franco did improve very much from last year. And then the back two spots of the rotation. Pivetta isn't. It's hard to tell with Pivetta and Vasquez. Vince, is it Velasquez? Is that his last name?
Yes.
Yeah, Velasquez. Yeah, you got that right.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be too hard to know what you're going to get from them. And even with Jake Arrieta, he started declining after a really good first 2 months of the year. The rotation may not be. I think it could be the second weakest. I think it has potential to be really good, but I think there's also a very realistic possibility of it being very bad.
Mhm.
I like the position player core, just pretty much all around.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's funny is that I tend to agree with you a lot on a lot on your points. I agree that the rotation outside of Nola and Arrieta really is filled with a ton of question marks and has the potential for being fantastic or utterly terrible. But I also think this year will be a year of growth starting pitching wise in Philadelphia, because you look at some of their top prospects who are knocking on the door in Jojo Romero and where is he? Oh, darn it! In Jojo Romero and Eniel De Los Santos. I think De Los Santos, if he puts up numbers like he did in AAA, where in AAA this past year, that I think which I believe was a hitter's park as well, close to how Philadelphia's modeled. I think that he'll do really well in that starting rotation. Same thing potentially with Jojo Romero if they decide to skip him past AAA. I think that the rotation will probably get better as the year goes on, as they swap pieces up and down in the minors. But yeah, bullpen outside of really Tommy Hunter and Pat Neshek, I really don't like it all that much. I agree with you there. And the core players themselves, along with Segura, Realmuto, and Harper, have basically been reinforced. And that's why I think they're potentially just win the division. I think.
All right. Now, the make it or break it thing for the Philadelphia Phillies is their depth. Right now, on paper, they have the best starting lineup, I think, 1 through 9, of any of the National League East teams. But the problem is, if any of those players get injured, it could get really, really messy. Like right now, I don't even know who their backup catcher is because Alfaro got traded to Miami. We've already covered about how the outfield situation would be pretty precarious without Harper. Infield, there aren't a lot of amazing options either. So, and pitching as well. So there's a lot to be desired in the team's depth. So this is a very risky team, but I still think the amount of talent that they have is really tantalizing. And they have a lot of interesting bullpen arms. With, there's Sir Anthony Dominguez. There's also
former Yankee Daniel Robertson,
of course, D-Rob, my old friend. There's also guys like Pazos and Nicasio who can add a little bit of value. Then for rotation, Arrieta is going to be scary. Nola should be a sure bet. Pivetta was actually quite unlucky, so expect him to improve. But overall, this team lives and dies by its depth, and that's going to decide whether they win the division or flop on their face.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So overall, this team doesn't really strike me as aggressive. Like the lineup does have, standout guys like Hoskins, Harper, and Realmuto, but then you got guys who have leave much to be desired, like Franco and Hernandez, which on both sides of well, they don't really strike me as like catalysts on like offense or defense. The bench doesn't strike me as either bad or good. It's just there. It's you know. But and then the rotation does have upside because their defense last year was like the worst in baseball. So if that improves, it could obviously save runs on defense and improve the results of the starting rotation. And the bullpen does have upside, and because you got like good relief pitchers like Robertson and Dominguez in there, but you also have the wild card Juan Nicasio, who's probably the most unlucky relief pitcher in baseball last year because he had an ERA of 6, a strikeout rate of 11, and a walk rate less than 2. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, that was like fueled by his like 400 batting average and balls in play. Because that was ridiculous. Then, their depth is like not really impressive, I would say. Sure, sure they have like starting pitchers ready to hit the bigs, but on the other ends of the field, like they don't have outfielders, they don't have shortstops, they don't have like catchers ready to make an impact. So it's like if infielders or outfielders go down, it's gonna lag behind the rest of the NL East. So yeah, I think they're gonna be mediocre or average. So,
all right. Mm-hmm. Okay, Cards.
Yeah, I think they'll finish third.
For all that I said about their depth, I think I'm putting them first for now, and we shall see as we get closer to the season. Right now, I'm going to put them first.
I'm going to put them first as well, mainly because that top-tier talent is really good, and the starting rotation has upside to improve over the year, something that Atlanta and the Nationals really don't have. And come down the stretch in middle of July on, I think that can be a valuable asset for Philadelphia.
I'm going to go second place.
All right.
I might have just had you confused with Blue. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Potentially.
So, with the Mets, I was really low on them, obviously. I picked them fourth. I don't like their cohesion, and I just can't trust them. And a lot of their great players have bad injury history.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of their catching situation, yeah, they brought in Wilson Ramos. That seemed like a great signing. And they have Darno. The problem with both of them is that neither of them is a defensively plus catcher. They don't have a backup catcher who they can put in to get, to help the pitchers out late in the game. They're both offensively minded catchers. So you have that's kind of an odd roster construction decision. I have their first baseman to start the year because Peter Alonso probably won't start the year. He'll probably play 2 weeks in. Robinson Cano as their first baseman for now. I have Jed Lowry playing second base. He might shift over if third base Todd Frazier gets traded or outrighted. I mean, they did give him a little bit of a decent contract. Rosario, I gave him a 1 because I'm just not high on his bat at all. He's a decent defender, but he's nothing special there, I don't think, and he's not a good batter at this point of his career. Their outfield, Conforto and Nimmo. Nimmo kind of broke out a little bit last year, so I had them both as 2s. I have Braxton as a 1. I have Cespedes as a 2, but he's injured to start the year, and they've talked about trading him already.
No, there's talk that he's not even going to play this year.
Yeah, also
I think they say he'll be around by like August or something like that, mid-season.
Yeah, but I remember the dumb comment Van Wagenen made that he was the ultimate trade deadline piece. You don't talk about the trade deadline until the trade deadline.
He's an agent.
All right, so then with their pitchers, they have probably like next to maybe the Washington Nationals, they might have the best rotation in the division. But yet again, a lot of these guys have gotten hurt over the years. And I don't think there's any way DeGrom will be able to match what he did last year, but I do think he'll still be among one of the best pitchers in the National League, of course. I still think he's an all-star pitcher. I still think he'll be a Cy Young candidate. I just think there might be a little bit of a return down to earth. Syndergaard is great, but they were also talking about trading him for a little bit. Wheeler and Matz have had their good days and their bad days. They've generally been pretty good, though. Their bullpen's probably the best in the division. But I just question their ability to consistently score runs as a unit, and I question their roster cohesion, and I question they have kind of an average-ish to below average-ish farm to bring up, like talent in the middle of the season to kind of get by when there's injuries and people getting banged up. And I just don't like them to be able to finish down the stretch, and I have them picked fourth.
One thing I will say positive is that they did add a lot of depth this offseason, including the recent Carlos Gomez minor league deal. I like the team, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, I also have them fourth, and I do think that they are a good team with a lot of talent, but just the injuries that they've always had. I really like. Also, I don't know if you mentioned, but Jeff McNeil is terrific. He's one of my new favorites. But yeah, I mean that's just. I just don't think that there's a. I don't think they're gonna be able to do very much, in my opinion. I do love the rotation.
When it comes to the Mets with me, they look like it's such a good team on paper. And that's the thing. I don't know. This team looks like the ultimate paper tiger. The rotation, of course, is great, 1 through 4. The fifth spot is really up for debate because Oswald's okay, and Jason Vargas, he was just awful last year. It was bad. Currently, right now, on MLB.com, their depth chart has Lowry at third, Rosario at short, Cano at second, and Frazier at first. Lowry they signed because they can basically play anywhere. Doesn't really have the arm for shortstop anymore and is great at second base, but you have Robinson Cano at second base. And without the DH spot because, again, National League. Todd Frazier, probably not going to do all that well and get replaced by Peter Alonso when his Super 2 rights are up. Coming off the bench, not that bad for the infield. Nothing special, really. Cano I'd give it 2, but I don't know with him. His defense is good, has been solid, and his bat's been solid. I don't know if Citi Field's going to impact anything, though, because he's done okay there. Nothing really to write home about. Rosario, I think, will be good at short. Really like his bat in the lower third of the lineup, potentially. Nimmo, Lagares, and Conforto, I think that's a great outfield. Not the best in the division, but at the same time, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. If they get Cespedes back, it's going to be good. It's going to be a big offense booster for him. Ramos at catcher, is really good investment. And even though he defensively was okay in Tampa last year, there's really no better option, and he can still play catcher at a decent rate. Their bullpen, I think the top 3 of Seth Lugo, Jeremy Familia, and Edmund Diaz are far the way the best in the division. But the depth at the Mets bullpen, I just don't know some days because it either shows up and it's great, or it's just so wildly inconsistent that I can't get a good read on it. But I think when they bring up Peter Alonso, that the offense will be a little more consistent. But I still have them fourth because depth wise, I just don't know. And when it comes to offense, I could see this team doing what they did last year and just wasting a whole lot of good pitching performances and just not scoring runs. And another question for the Mets, I feel this season is going to be whether if the team is bad, they're not doing well, is how well can Brodie Van Wagenen do a sell-off potentially of their top-tier talent and try and rebuild that farm system. Do you trust Van Wagenen enough to do that? Because I think that might be a potential plot thread this season.
Also, the worst-case scenario is that they do very well up until August, and then they just collapse in mid-August and September. And they don't get the sell-off, and they also don't... Yeah, they're stuck with all that money.
And they completely screw over the fan base one more time.
Yeah, but just to interrupt before Jeremy goes,
Meh.
Lakota loves this team. They have them as the first wild card. So
Whack.
Because the first three options in the bullpen, and a lot of the guys here are sabermetric darlings.
True.
It's just whether they play up to their potential or not. That's going to be the issue, and another issue is depth. Those are going to be the two biggest issues that are going to that are going to either they completely ignore the Mets, or as you've seen in history's past, completely ravage and just destroy the Mets.
Right. So on to you, Jeremy.
Well, we've talked about depth as a huge factor for the Mets, but this version of them is so much better in that department than previous Mets teams. Like even this past year, they were given at bats to scrubs like Den Decker and Nito and guys that I don't even remember the names of because they were so irrelevant. So now, I mean, we're already seeing it happen. Jed Lowry and Frazier have already accrued injuries in spring training. So there's already this kind of depth thing where they're kind of signing a lot more people, starting to pay off a little bit more. So not quite sure who's going to start opening day at third base if those guys aren't around to do it. But you still have Ahmed Rosario at third, at short. You still have Cano at second base. You still have, I suppose, I don't know who's going to be first base. I guess Cano at first base to start off the year until Pete Alonso comes in. And yes, he's Pete now for some reason. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, you can kind of see why Van Wagenen made all of these moves when he did, because it's already proving to be of the utmost importance that they get healthy guys out there and get them out quickly. The outfield is going to be an interesting storyline because I feel like Conforto can only go up from last season when he started out the season struggling due to injury and then started playing up to his potential in the second half of the year. So I hope he continues that. Brandon Nimmo had an insane year. He had like a 149 weighted runs created plus or something like that. It was absolutely obscene how good he was. And I don't think that's going to be sustained, but he'll still be a solid player. I think you can expect around a 3-win season from him. Lagares is a red flag for me because I don't think he'll stay healthy. Onto the pitching, DeGrom, Syndergaard, and Wheeler is one of the best top threes. I just stopped myself because I remembered Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin in the exact same division. But it's still really, really good. Wheeler broke out last year, and I think he's going to stay at the level he was at. And of course, the bullpen that we touched on has Edwin Diaz, Jurice Finn, Seth Lugo, a bunch of plus guys. If they can keep the depth going and make a couple savvy been doing, I think I could see them. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but they'll give other teams a run for their money. It's just a problem of whether, if they don't make the playoffs this year, is that going to kind of just screw them over for the short-term future afterwards? So it's weird. This Mets season is a total house of cards. So if you just give it a strong gust of wind, it could just cave in.
So yeah, I think the Mets have the opposite situation that the Braves have. Braves have a good offense and pitching. The Mets have strong pitching and a weak offense. Outside of Cano, Ramos, and Nimmo, I do not trust anyone on the Mets offense to deliver a productive season. McNeil's the closest I have to being like a mixed opinion because he did have a strong half season, but it's a small sample size compared to it's his first season to play, and there needs to be like more a bit larger sample size to discern how he's going to perform. And the rest of the roster is just bad. Like Todd Frazier at third, J.D. Davis at first, and I don't know what to make of Michael Conforto anymore, to be honest. But the bench is I think the bench is and for what it is, it's not particularly, it's not strong, but it's not weak either. Broxton and McGarris are strong backup outfielders, I'd say. The pitching is the best in the division, hands down. The Grom, Syndergaard, Matz, Wheeler, that makes it that would probably be the best rotation in any division, even if it was just, to be honest. Vargas is like the glaring red flag, but to be honest, seeing the Mets starting pitching depth, I think they're right to just live with Vargas as the 5-man, and the bullpen, while probably the most locked down in the back innings, I'd say, with Familia, Go, and Diaz. I do not think that they're particularly strong in the middle relief parts of the bullpen. With they do have at least up. You also got guys like Justin Wilson, Daniel Zamora, and Kyle Dowdy. It's not particularly fun to look at. And one thing I will criticize the Mets for is that while they have their outfield depth, like Rajay Davis, Gregor Blanco, Braxton Lee, Carlos Gomez, they do not have particularly strong depth in any other sects of the outfield. I mean, correct myself. In general, they don't have depth at shortstop. The rest of the infield, don't have depth at catcher. They don't have strong depth in the relief as for relief pitchers. So yeah, I think that while they will finish above, they won't make the playoffs. No. So yeah.
All right, so Card Sharks.
I think they'll finish higher division.
Where do you have them finishing at?
Where do you have them finishing?
Second.
Second.
Do they make the playoffs in your scenario or no?
No, he said he wouldn't.
Oh, okay, my bad.
For me, going higher, but just third.
I'm gonna say fourth, because this team's been snake bit in the past few years, and this team just rubs me as the paper tiger that in the division that everyone says is gonna do something, but then never does.
Harrison?
Yeah, I'm also gonna go fourth.
Okay,
All right.
We all know what I did. So I guess now it's time to talk about Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful boys.
Our 2019 World Series champion Florida Marlins. Oh, pardon me, Miami Marlins. Excuse me.
Florida. Get that shit out of here.
I would rather them be called the Florida Marlins. It just was a better name. Miami Marlins. That's not a good alliteration. Like Pittsburgh Pirates. Yeah. That's a great alliteration. Mm-hmm. Miami Marlins, not so much.
I don't mind it.
But
my dad used to work for my dad used to work for the Marlins when they were still the Florida Marlins. But yeah, so that's what I've just kind of gotten used to saying all these years, even though it's been that way for 6 years, Miami Marlins. But I'm just so used to still saying the Florida Marlins.
Yeah, I am at some level too. But anywho, on to their roster construction.
Oh God!
And yeah, to call this a roster is a little bit generous. They have a decent catcher though. When they traded Realmuto, they got back a guy who is a starter level, an Alfaro who can actually play some decent defense for them. So that maybe that will help their young pitchers. At first base, they have a hole there. We're gonna hear that.
The real deal, Neil Walker.
There's my boy who was garbage for us last year.
Mm-hmm. I don't even have him starting. I had O'Brien as their starting version.
I don't think O'Brien is going to play first. I think they said he would
be the everyday right fielder, apparently.
Oh, yeah, that's even better. But they have Brian Anderson who played right field, right?
Anderson's left field, I believe.
All right, well then.
Anderson's third base, right?
Anderson played third base and right field.
Oh,
I think he's going to be third base.
All right, so
but he's going to play third base this year.
All right, so they don't have to deal with Prado anymore. I had him as a 0.
Prado and Walker are going to platoon at first base. Realistically.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
All right, so I made these like.
But still, feel free to put a 1 or a 0 at first base.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a 1 or a 0. If Prado is and Walker are their first baseman, then they're still a 0. Castro is a 2. He was probably their best player last year.
Starling, you're
Anderson.
the darling.
Yeah, I want Starling Castro and Starling Marte on the same team just for the names.
We've already got Starlin Castro and Harlan Garcia, who are both have first names that rhyme with Marlin.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Yeah. So
there was a game where Yardo Parra played a guy whose last name was Garcia Parra.
Fun.
So
yeah, I guess that counts in some weird cosmic way.
Yeah. Then we have Riddle, who I had as a 1.
Yeah.
If Anderson can play decent third base, he's a solid 2 or 3. Then you have Brinson and Dean, both young players who are going to platoon at one of the outfield spots. I think Victor Mesa is probably going to be on the roster for most of the year. He has to be.
No.
I mean,
I don't
he's
think so.
Still in high A, isn't he?
Yeah, the plan is to start him off in high A and not really advance him too quickly.
But he's already
yeah.
23, ain't he?
Yeah, but he's also not played American baseball ever.
Yeah, but we also have we've had a few Cuban stars who've never played American baseball who didn't stay that long in the minors.
But Mesa's bat needs to develop if it can.
I believe he is 20.
Correct about that.
Yeah, he is 23.
So yeah, I just had him playing because of his age, and we've seen a lot of Cuban players do that. I still had him as a 1, so yeah.
Who knows? He could pull a Juan Soto and just be here.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And then
he could be.
Yeah, and then just be there only for defense at the end. But anyway, even then, so then Brinson probably gonna have to play center field again, and that's not gonna be good again.
I disagree. I am a Lewis Brinson fan, but I understand why people are not as high on him as they were this time last year.
I think he, I had literally next to his name, Young could improve, but I just don't think the improvement is now.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, this roster has got so many question marks that even my construction of it might be already wrong, and the general consensus might be wrong too. And their starting pitching is They got Urena, who was the first Marlin in history to have three straight sub-4 ERA seasons.
Don't like that guy.
And he's not even that good. They have Chen, who I don't like. Alcantara.
Some funny shit on Chen later. I'll talk about it.
Alcantara was called up late, wasn't he? Last year?
Alcantara, yes, he was. Alcantara is in the majors.
Yeah, and he looked all right. So they're going to have to play. I think they don't really have enough starting pitchers, bodies at starting pitcher to avoid.
I mean, Trevor Richards wasn't super bad either, but continue on.
All right, and then their bullpen is also every other team except for the Mets, not that great. Steckenrider and Ziegler were the two names I really put on my list.
Ziegler retired.
Oh, God. Wow. I am really behind.
Now, they did have Adam Conley, who improved a lot as a reliever and was pretty good.
True.
Like Barrett Claw ended up struggling towards the end.
But that ending struggle is that's really why I didn't even put him on the list, is because, he might be a 7 or an 8, but a good 7 or an 8, probably not.
But they've got Steckenrider, which is one of the best names in the league.
They had Steckenrider and Bearclaw, and they got rid of one of them. They broke up the band.
They should have added to the band, and the bass player would have been Quackenbush.
Quackenbush. Nice. I remember that name.
Yep. Hard to forget it.
Yep. All right. Who shall begin, Harrison?
Yeah, Harrison.
I mean, there's definitely work that needs to be done. It's a very young team again, and it's going to be interesting to see how some players, especially Brinson, potentially Monte Harrison, who should potentially see time, Isan Diaz, who could potentially see time in the major leagues as well. Overall, they're definitely going to be first place. I'm 100% sure. That's
That's the take.
That's the take. First
That's
place.
the take of the century. That's the take of the millennium, I'd think. Well, to start off with the Marlins is that everything around this team just stinks. The farm system really isn't that good. The team itself isn't that good. Even though they're growing analytics wise, they're still bottom third of the league, but it's growing, I guess. So that might be an interesting development. I think Monte Harrison will be the big what if this year because that's a good piece for the future. I think if he does well. Outside that, this team really there isn't a whole lot to talk about because
They stink.
everyone and their grandmother knows they're gonna stink. It's just oh my god, like Curtis Granderson in left field.
Don't you talk shit about the Grandy man. That's my boy.
I'm
Look,
Stay
I
away
love-
from him.
Right.
Look, I love the Granny Man too, dude, but the Granny Man's old enough to be my grandfather.
All
right.
He's 38, I think.
Yeah, I think
But yeah, Neil Walker at first. Wei and Chen maybe will come back potentially, hopefully. I don't know. Like maybe he'll come back and not be injured this year. Dan Straley is okay, and Jose Urena is somewhat decent. There just isn't a whole lot here. I'm sorry. It just all kind of sucks outside of Starlin Castro. Brian Anderson might be good, but yeah, outside of that, nothing I'm really hype about.
I want to hearken you back to the beginning of the 2017 season. On opening day against Washington on April 3rd, the starting lineup for the Miami Marlins was D. Gordon, JT Realmuto, Christian Yelich, Giancarlo Stanton, Justin Bour, Marcell Ozuna, Derek Dietrich, Adeiny Echeverria, and Edinson Volquez. None of those players are on the team anymore. That's whack. I mean, you had Yelich, Stanton, Ozuna. It's incredible the amount of time. I could never get over the hump because that pitching was just. And now I can segue onto the pitching and Wei Yin Chen, who had some of the most dramatic home road splits I've ever seen last year. He had like a 9 ERA road and a ERA under 2 at Marlins Park. It was absolutely insane. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was some yin-yang bullshit, and I love it. It's crazy. It's crazy as hell.
Yin-yang bullshit. That's
Now
Japan. He's from Taiwan.
I just looked him up right now. At home, he had an ERA of 1.62, and away he had an ERA of 9.27.
That's crazy, and it's
What?
13. It's 13 starts each. So you can't say anything about sample sizes. He had 13 starts at home, 13 starts on the road, an ERA difference of nearly 8 runs. Absolutely mind-boggling.
He had double the OPS on the road than he did at home in terms of giving
I
up.
love it. I heard that stat during a spring training broadcast between the Marlins and the Mets, and my day was made quite a bit better after hearing that. But yeah, aside from that, I don't have too much else to add other than I love my former Yankee boys, Starlin Castro, Neil Walker, and Curtis Granderson on that team. I love them to bits. They're not really going to be great, but I still love them. And yeah, they suck. Yay!
I think the Marlins would be in a better state if Jose Fernandez had not died, because with him not in the rotation anymore, you can really see how far it's like regress compared to 2016. The offense is the worst. The NL, the bench is like double A bad. The rotation is really bad. The bullpen is really bad. Everything's just really bad, and I think it's worse than the Orioles, to be honest, because they don't have any good players. I mean, We don't know if Brian Anderson's real. We don't know if Drew Steckenrider's gonna be another trade piece. We don't know if like any of the prospects are going to develop because there's really nothing to look forward to because there's nobody.
Really, outside of Sixto Sanchez, minor league wise.
Well, that's true, but it's not on the major league roster.
Yeah.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
I will say to drive some optimism into the picture. I think Lewis Brinson's gonna be the all-star of our team with like a B or near 4 now. I think it's gonna be maybe a 2010 guy. I think it's gonna be a good player. But yeah, I think this team's gonna get the number 1 pick in the 2020 draft.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's take.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with all the garbage teams in baseball now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Including the Orioles.
Yeah.
And
No, aren't
the glory
that
holes.
bad.
Yeah, the Marlins have officially become the statue that they got rid of.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Card Sharks, man. Higher or lower than a 5?
They're gonna be the 5. You know, they're gonna be the same.
This year's going to be the Nadir. They're going to be last place, but they're going to look better while doing so.
I'm gonna go lower. It'll be higher than a -12 if they win 65 games this year and pull over 1 million fans in the ballpark.
Yeah.
That's the only way it's not a total complete abyss.
They will find
the
a way to
Marlins
finish
this year.
6th in the division.
Yep.
I think those uniforms might get them a few more people.
Blue.
Double first place.
Double first.
The only good take in
Nice.
this
Gonna be great.
episode.
Guys,
They won the World
sheep
Series
just
in those
don't
unis.
believe, okay?
All right. Prospect wise, we'll start with Hendo and work our way down.
Okay. Prospect I chose is right-hander relief pitcher Sam Delaplane. This was the 25th round pick of our 2017 draft. And one thing I noticed while looking him up was that he was that much of a scouted prospect on publicly, because it's basically non-existent that you can find reports from Ellen Pipeline, Fangraphs, all that stuff. But what I found from Lookout Landing, because they actually report prospects, is that he had decent pitches in his fastball and slider, and while he's a bit lightweight at 5'11", 75 pounds, he's above average in inducing grounds and struck out the most Irish reliever in 2018 at 100. In A-ball, he put up a stat show a 1.96 ERA, a 2.43 FIP, and a 1.79 xFIP in 60 innings. And he had a 15.1 strikeouts per 9 and a 3.2 walks per 9. A 380 batting average in balls in play, which suggests that he could be better than what he is. And a fun fact, he also apparently recorded consecutive immaculate innings in one appearance.
Whoa.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
Immaculatum. Okay. All right. Prospects, as I'm sure you guys know, is not my area of expertise. So while I was thinking about doing my prospect for this episode, I was thinking, all right, I'm just going to look at the top 30 for the Yankees and find the sickest name and talk about that one. And I lucked out because Garrett Whitlock is kind of on the up and up, it would appear. Whitlock is the number 10 rated prospect on MLB Pipeline for the Yankees. So Whitlock in 2018 threw a combined 120 and 2/3 innings and pitched to a 1.86 ERA in Charleston A-ball, also A+ with Alabama Birmingham, and then the Trenton Thunder at AA, where he had a .84 ERA in just the 2 games that he pitched there. He's still rising, and he's got some crazy stats to go along with it. Those tantalizingly low ERA numbers. Right now, his strikeouts per 9 is solidly around 9.5, 9.9. His strikeout per over walk ratio, it's a little bit harder to gauge when it's over multiple levels, which he's been at 3 levels over the same season. Cumulatively, his strikeout over walk ratio was 2.98, which is it's pretty good. There's always room for improvement, but it's pretty darn good. I think he figures to be more of a relief pitcher than anything else. He is starting, but his kind of major league projection is as a right-handed pitcher who doesn't really have too many effective pitchers. He has a good fastball and he has a pretty nice slider, but his third pitch and a changeup is kind of a work in progress. And while he could potentially be a mid-rotation starter, I think he's going to be a bullpen piece. And I really do like his name.
All right. For mine, I'll pick one of our young shortstops in the lower part of the Orioles system with Adam Hall. Currently on Fangraphs, he's the 11th best prospect. On Orioles Hangout, he's 19th. And on MLB Pipeline, he's 14th. So a middle prospect for the most part. Did pretty well in Short A Aberdeen this year. Started off really slow, but I think ended at a 20-game hit streak to end out the season. So he bounced back overall. Really bat consistency and more so building his body up at short are going to be the two biggest things, because the bat, Fangraphs currently has it as a 40, and MLB Pipeline has it as a 50. His bat's not that bad, but there's a little room for improvement because there's some noticeable holes in his swing. The bounce speed's good. And hit it to all sides of the field are good. But another issue is power. He doesn't have a whole lot, and at shortstop that might be an issue. Defensively, he's got good speed, but his arm needs to show considerable improvement to really stick at shortstop. But if it gets stronger, it looks potentially that it might be a shortstop arm. So really, we were looking at potentially the Orioles' next great shortstop or second baseman. I think this year in Delmarva will be telling, really, just to see how he does well. Because he put up a 741 OPS in short season Aberdeen. I think really if he puts up the same thing or adds to it, say a 757 OPS, I think personally that he might be a top 100 prospect next year. Because what we're seeing from him is growth, and he's 19. There's still a lot of projectability there. Yeah, so that's my prospect. Now on to Blue.
So my pick is catcher Garrett Stubbs. He spent all of last year, I believe, at AAA Fresno, soon to be AAA Round Rock. So I mentioned earlier about Remuto and catchers that lead off. Garrett Stubbs is the kind of catcher that could very feasibly do that. He had a 380 on base percentage in Fresno last year. The only issue with him as a prospect and why he's not a bigger prospect is because he's a very, I believe he's 5'11", 170. He's a very...
Jesus.
5'10", 175 is listed on Baseball Reference.
Yeah, he's very, very, very tiny for a catcher, which is why he's generally considered to be more of a backup, potentially. I mean, for how small he is, he does everything very, very well. But there's a question of how durable will he be able to be. But he's a leadoff catcher, so you let him play every day. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah,
That's two Garretts now.
I think to add with Stubbs, though, is that I think the bat's going to play up really well in Houston, too. Because looking at his bat over his time in the minors, it's gotten better. And with AAA, he looked really well. So I think there's potential there a little bit growth-wise for the bat. And defensive-wise, everyone grades him out really well. The issue is longevity there. I think he'll add muscle or some type of weight over the season and this coming off season. But I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett Stubbs was at some point the starting catcher for the Astros for the most of the year.
They got to get Garrett some of those Twinkies and get a big
There's only
chunk.
so much more you can grow when you're 5'10".
Just feed him protein bars and oatmeal all day, and he will become the next absolute Houston unit.
All right.
So, on to mine. I'm going to pick a guy who's not on MLB Pipeline, who's not on Fangraphs, is only mid-tier on the Baseball America list. He's a guy who still has his rookie limits, but he played in the major leagues. He bat 300, and he played not one, not two, 6 different positions. And he's a switch hitter. My guy is Andrew Velazquez. Is a utility shortstop who had a good game today in spring training. He can play center field, he can play shortstop, he can play third base, he can play second base. He played in Montgomery last year. He actually had a really good OPS even though his batting average was low. And then he got moved up to Durham and he actually evened out his batting average and he had an OPS of around 730. And he made a play in Durham for most of the year, so he looked good. Actually was a very, very good off-the-bench utility guy for September. And he's looking really good in spring camp. So while there was some talk in winter of him being outrighted off the 40-man roster, I think he's going to stick on the 40-man roster, and he will be on the Durham shuttle for most of the year. And I like him.
All right, everyone. That about wraps it up. Next week, we'll continue with our division discussion and discuss other baseball news and topics. Please contact us at laptopsonthefield@gmail.com.
Don't forget to follow our Twitter at LaptopsOTFPod.
All right, everyone. That does it for today. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Trying to avoid yin-yang bullshit.
Yes. Be consistent out here.